better to listen than to talk.
I believe you.
Don't search for all the answers at once. A path is formed by laying one stone at a time.
Welcome to the Rewatchers in the Lodge. You're here with me, Tyler Harris, and
Riley Harris,
Tyler McKinley,
Mitchell Marshall,
and
Justin Hammer.
Justin Hammer.
and
Marcus is missing today. He was hit by a taco truck yesterday and was not released from the hospital, despite fighting as hard as he could.
his lungs were filled with guac.
He's got the guac lung.
We're hoping he sues and we get free Al Pastor for life.
Hopefully. But that never happens. You always think it will, and it never
It
does.
happens for Tracy
they just
Morgan.
They just give you nachos with no cheese.
Oh, man. The worst. Well, we watched the first 2 episodes of Season 2 of Twin Peaks. Episode 8 of the series aired September 30th, 1990, written by Mark Frost and directed by David Lynch. Episode 9 was aired on October 6th, 1990, and written by Harley Payton and directed by David Lynch. And here to tell you everything that happened in those 2 episodes is Mitchell Marshall.
Let's go. Old man room service finds Cooper shot and bloody but could not care less. Creepy guy comes in and tells Coop 3 things and takes his ring. Audrey hides from her father. Jerry creeps on Blackie. Cooper chats with Diane about getting shot in his life dreams. The cops finally arrive. Lucy updates us. Nadine is in a coma. Josie and Catherine are missing. Shelley has smoke inhalation props. Maddie and Sarah are awkward and interrupted by Leland singing with new white hair. Maddie has a vision. The Horn brothers start to make a plan and sing and start dancing to Leland singing, and he's back in this scene and ready for work. At Leo's, Andy is concussed and Albert's back. They find boots and cocaine. Maddie and Donna try on glasses and shoot the shit. Even Norma gives them a clue, and then Norma gives them a clue. Albert is looking into Coop's injury, and he's still an asshole. Leo has an alibi for a separate murder. One-armed shoe guy shows up at the station. James tells Sheriff about Laura rambling about Firewalk with Me and Bob. Donna is cooler now because she smokes, and she is at the station to see James. She gets very seductive. Andy and Lucy have to search Flesh World together. Jacoby is awake. He reminisces on Laura being crazy and finding her heart necklace. Crazy Eyes Bobby visits Shelley with a plaid shirt around his waist, a la Sean Hunter. Ed laments Norma's amendment and rebounding too hard with Nadine. He shot her eye out, it turns out, LMAO. Cooper sees one of his dream hint things. Papa General tells Bobby about a touching vision for Bobby. What the hell? Bobby remembers Hank shot Leo. Cooper gives a rundown of Laura's final night on this great earth. Pete comes home. Josie left a letter that says she's in Seattle. The Horn brothers and Hank chat Leo's coma and Catherine's possible death. This is rough today. Audrey gets a scolding at the brothel. Donna is taking Laura's Meals on Wheels route. At a weird-ass dinner party, some chick reads a poem about Laura. Mr. Palmer reveals his hair turned white overnight and sings Come On, Get Happy, and then collapses. Audrey prays to Cooper, and she's in over her head. The giant angel vision guy is back visiting Cooper, dropping wisdom and a fireball into his chest. Oh, and then Ronette awakens to a vision of some demonic shit with Laura and Bob. Over breakfast, Coop talks to Bet and Ronette. Some dude from Hong Kong is now in this show. Donna wheels some meals to a very creepy lady with a half-doll, half-magician child. Coop and Sheriff chat with Ronette and show her drawings of suspects. She has a breakdown. The Horn brothers roast marshmallows and a ledger. Log lady eats a bear claw while her log chats with Bobby's dad. Lucy and Andy are fighting again. He is sterile, so she stepped out on him. Dang, all the hoes in the show ain't loyal. Ben Horn tells the sheriff that Audrey is missing. Jerry Catherine never signed the insurance, but Leland told Iceland about the fire. Leland reveals suspect Scary Bob lived next door to his grandpa's summer lake house. Shelley visits Leo, whose eyes open at the end of the scene. Anonymous caller tries to reach the sheriff. Audrey brings ice to the store manager with a vacuum, painted toes, and bondage kink. Audrey strangles him until he says he recruited Ronette and Laura. She got kicked out of One-Eyed Jack's after just one night. Bobby wants Shelley to get Leo to be Comet at home so they can collect his disability checks. Bobby's dad monitors space waves from distant galaxies, and they got a message about Owls and Cooper, and we are officially off the rails. Maddie, Donna, and James are starting a singing group. James makes oogly eyes at Maddie, and Donna gets really jealous and starts making out with him very loudly. Donna gets a call from Mr. Smith. Maddie has a vision of Bob attacking her. Giant Angel is back in Cooper's room. Bob has an owl face. Audrey calls Cooper for help, but Blackie catches her.
A lot of shit.
Yeah.
A lot of shit.
So much.
That was a long premiere episode.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't
it
know
was
it
a
was going to be a
double,
double
yeah.
episode.
Yeah, 2-hour episode. So yeah, it's a couple things too. I feel like worth noting. One of the things that this show did that was kind of unique is that between the first and second seasons, they actually released 2 books. One is The Secret Diary of Laura Palmer, and the second one is the autobiography of Dale Cooper, which is just a transcription of audio tapes that he's been keeping since he was 12 years old, which is pretty wonderful.
Did Diane there since the beginning?
No.
All right.
Everyone gets their Diane at a different point in life.
Okay.
I don't think that's quite documented.
Is that a
for
Jewish
him.
tradition? What is that?
I believe so. But yeah, it's really interesting, and kind of having read those pretty recently. So the Secret Diary of Laura Palmer was like a New York Times bestseller. Like it was everywhere. It was banned from lots of schools because it's insane. It gets very dark. But it is a really interesting thing that this show did kind of to help, and I think it just kind of stoked the fire going into season 2, especially after the finale that we watched last week, which is crazy. But yeah, let's just dive into these episodes. What where do you guys want to start? I feel like there's a million threads. Well, let's start. One of my favorite scenes in these 2 episodes is the opening when Cooper wakes up in the hospital and Truman just turns to Lucy and is like, "Tell Agent Cooper what's happened since he's been asleep," and she just goes through and like lists every person in Twin Peaks and all the bullshit that's happened to him, and he just says, "How long was I out?" Like, it's just a ridiculous amount of stuff happens.
It's like 7 the next morning, right?
Right. So I guess we could start with the cliffhangers that we had from last season. I mean, Cooper obviously is not dead.
He laid there bleeding for a long time.
Very long time, yeah.
Despite wearing a bulletproof vest.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. Got to get that wood tick, right?
Yeah.
Nadine also is not dead, but is in a coma from the pills she took. Shelley and Pete are suffering from smoke inhalation. Catherine is no one knows, possibly buried in a building. And Leo is also in a coma-ish. Is that what they say?
Open his eyes.
Yeah, and then he wakes up a little bit. But
And Josie's
Was he
in
actually?
Seattle.
We can't remember where his eyes just kind of like permanently open. They looked
no, they open a little. It's very like little.
because I couldn't tell if they were open the whole scene or if I like just missed him opening his eyes.
Yeah, so they crack open a little bit towards the end there.
It wasn't like a Jon Snow.
yeah,
That would've been great.
Definitely wasn't that. But yeah, so a lot of stuff happens pretty quickly in these episodes. I guess let's start with the Mystery Squad. Let's just talk about James and Donna and Maddie's stuff a little bit. I think Maddie has some of my favorite scenes in these episodes because she is now starting to have weird visions of a stain, of the world's largest coffee stain, possibly.
Yeah, I was like,
I
what is
believe.
this stain that she's seeing?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but there is like, if you look at the top, like as it comes in, there's like hair. There's like not like actual hair, but you can see like.
Oh, I just assumed it was blood.
I
Yeah,
thought it was
well,
blood
I think
too,
it is.
but
I
then...
think it is. Well, it's funny because I feel like it's like what blood might look like if you had just never cleaned it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just, so maybe that's what it was going for. I don't know. But yeah, we get to see some more early 90s not just early 90s, David Lynch ass video effects of that like coming in, which are just my
I was
favorite.
expecting it to be like a shape. It's like, what are we gonna see here?
It's
The
New Jersey.
So they're at I can't remember the cousin's name. You just
Maddie.
said Maddie. Okay,
Yeah.
I can't-
Madeline,
The
Maddie,
most
yeah.
common name in the history of Utah.
Maddie is
Sure.
at the diner, and then Donna comes in. Maddie's like, you know what, these glasses? Fuck them. And just snaps them. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, how are you seeing? But,
Well, she had that vision. Her third eye is now
Oh,
open.
true.
So
and then
who gives
she's
a
like,
shit about the real
here,
world?
Donna, here's these sunglasses that were Laura's. And then Donna puts them on and becomes a different person.
Yeah.
And I want to know if that's like, I wasn't sure since it's the new season if that was just like, you know, sometimes characters change drastically over seasons, which I don't like. It happens a lot though. So I wasn't sure if it was that or if those glasses are like possessed somehow or something, or if it's just a Lynchy thing where it's like sunglasses make you cool.
I
And your
mean-
confidence goes through the roof.
I think it's just a dumbass teenager thing of like, because I feel like this will become more apparent a little like when we watch some stuff later, but like, Donna obviously knew that Laura was doing some shit, and Donna was not doing that shit. You know what I mean? So I think that she feels like Donna was, or that Laura was kind of a badass. And so it feels like the thing where it's like when you're a teenager, it's like, look at this fucking baseball hat, I'm going to be dope as shit. And then you are dope as shit for a while just because you believe in it hard enough. Like, that's what I feel like those glasses are. It's like her putting it on and being like, huh, I'm Laura.
The world is dark.
Laura.
I'm dark.
Yeah.
I smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
I go visit jailbirds.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So when
Suck on
she
them.
goes and visits James, one of my favorite lines in this show, by the way, is like, start smoking to, because it made me less tense. He's like, when did you start feeling so tense? When I started smoking. Yes. Very good. I love that so much. But yeah, so we've talked about her before. Like, I feel like Donna was relegated to basically in every scene she was in, just being like, at some point going, James or Laura. Like, it's just her like breathily saying names of other characters. And she starts doing some stuff this season.
Katie was like, what's going on? I'm like, hey, at least she's entertaining now.
Yeah.
Because before I couldn't stand her.
Yeah.
She's wheeling and mealing,
Wheeling and
my
mealing.
talking to some Smith dude, getting jealous of
Yeah.
James. That's not a shocker, I guess.
But I mean, those two scenes are some of my favorite scenes
Yeah.
of both these episodes.
Yeah.
That I mean, is that the next thing that happens with them? Is like the Meals on Wheels?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of. Let's talk about the weird stuff that happens to them, because I do feel like they haven't really been in that. Like, they haven't had any visions or been treated to any bizarre stuff happening.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure Donna even realizes bizarre stuff happened when she was there, but it sure did. But yeah, let's talk about that scene with the Tremons.
Oh, is that they have a name?
Yes, they do.
I just thought it was one of Willy Wonka's grandparents was left in that bed, and some little kid was over there. Just what is it? The corn?
Cream
Cream
corn.
Oh,
Yeah.
In
just
his
sitting in that
hands.
kid's hands.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because
It's gross.
this is what I came for. This and like, I mean, I did see that one scene with. I think both of them are in that one you showed me from Fire Walk with Me.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, that's what made me like. That's the thing that's been like on my mind constantly. And so I'm really excited to see these characters enter, and I really want more of this type of stuff. I hope there's more of it. I'm interested to see like how supernatural that is, or if it's just like I'm really interested in this whole show to see if there are actually supernatural things going on, or if it's just in people's heads. Like,
Yeah.
she goes there and she's like, is there cream corn on that plate? And maybe the person who prepared that food didn't put cream corn on it. Somehow they snuck it on there. That magic kid put it there as part of his trick, right? And
Yeah, they do actually cut the scene where he takes the cream corn in his hand and whirls it above his head so you can see it's just plastic, and then he puts it back in his pocket.
But yeah, it's just this really ominous, weird scene. The kid's very cryptic.
Yeah,
He's like,
yeah.
sometimes things happen just like that. And this kid reminds me of David Lynch a little bit.
Yes, 100%. The haircut, like, he looks like a
How he
little tiny
talks.
David Lynch. Yeah.
I felt like it was
speaks in
just-
French at some point.
It was
Yeah.
one more genre that just felt like it came in because we kind of had this eerie bizarro, and now it's really moved into to science fiction. We have We learn about what Bobby's dad does, and we literally see this dude appear to Cooper, and I'm like, hey, that is not some vision. Like, some shit just happened.
Right.
And then you get a scene like this, which is like this horror creep adjacent.
Yeah.
And then you have the classic like detective show and the soap opera, and it's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah.
But it was an enjoyable scene. I was quite creeped out.
Yeah, it's really great. And they also point Donna to
The neighbor.
yeah,
I can't
their
remember his
neighbor,
name.
Harold
Mr. Smith.
Harold Smith.
Yeah, and so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, it's interesting too. I think the interesting thing to note about this scene, as opposed to other like vision scenes or stuff that we've seen, is the camera is in that room before Donna is in that room, which feels very deliberate because you hear her kind of knock on the door and you already see, you know what I mean? So it's, I don't know. So there is something different about this for some reason. I don't know.
We see that room after she leaves too, and that's what made me think
Right.
these people might be more important than this little weird moment, because we were still with them. And it's not like, I don't think they share a significant look or anything.
Right.
I think it's pretty quick and simple, but we're there after she leaves.
Well, but I do think that the kid says something too. I think he
Yeah.
says,
Yeah,
like,
they have
she's
lines.
She
She's
seems like a nice girl or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
The
It's weird.
hell are you? But yeah, so that's pretty great. Let's talk about the Maddie visions before we get to the music
The
hour.
audition.
We'll talk about all the musical moments in
Oh,
these
goodness.
episodes next. But so Maddie has a couple of those. The first is after it's been revealed that Leland's hair has magically turned white just overnight in a flash.
It's working too, by the way.
Yeah, no.
Looks great.
Yeah, he's got his confidence back. He's
Yeah.
going back to work.
Silver
like,
Fox.
Singing all the time.
yeah,
I mean, after you kill someone, it changes you.
that's
Sometimes
true.
physically.
Apparently for the
Yeah.
better.
He's in a sitcom I watched called Fresh Off the Boat, and he just looks like that still. Here we are 20 years later, white hair. I mean, he looks a little older, but I was like, wow, just
Yeah.
same dude.
Well, and he's also it's funny because he's a white-haired crazy dad in How I Met Your Mother. He's Robin's
you're
dad.
right. Complete a-hole. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's pretty great. And then after that, Maddie has a vision of that stain on the carpet, and she's telling Sarah Palmer about some dream that she had the other night about this rug or whatever. And then she has that, and then the other one she has comes after that. I guess we might as well just talk about the music scene going into that.
Do it.
It has its own Twin Peaks Wikipedia page.
There's
and
so-
several YouTube entries.
There's
yes.
so
Gosh.
many times in these two episodes where, I mean, it happens a lot in the show in general, but especially these two episodes where it'll cut to the next scene and the activities of the scene are already in motion and they're just so bonkers. And I immediately just start laughing as soon as the camera cuts. Nothing's happened, but I'm already laughing.
Yeah.
Damn good pie.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Just cuts to an extreme close up on a stranger's face that we don't know who that guy is.
And then we don't see him.
Yeah. And that somehow makes the log lady, cryptically speaking, just seem like another day. Like, but yeah, so we come into the scene where James is, of course, playing a goddamn guitar, just like
A monster of a
Good-looking
guitar.
Yeah.
That guitar is huge.
and singing one of the most saccharine, just like songs. That is some like 50s ass teen bullshit.
Let
I
me throw
feel
down
like.
some lyrics for you because it gets complicated. David
Yeah.
Lynch wrote this, by the way.
Yeah. I'm sure with, is there anyone else credited on that musically? Is
see.
it probably Angelo?
It is
Yeah. With
David Lynch. Nope, that's all it says.
Really?
how,
Oh, this makes it even
like,
better.
out of time this is really bizarre.
That's
The
true.
microphones they're
Yeah.
using,
Yes.
the guitar, the song style is all very 50s.
Yeah, for sure.
Just you and I, just you and I, together forever in love. Just you and I, just you, together forever in love. In love, we go strolling together. I have now said every lyric in that song. It's all repeated about 4 times. Drop some synth behind that, and we'll.
Oh, yeah, that's the best because it's just a guitar, but then all of a sudden percussion comes in and a bass.
Yeah.
You're like, where's
There's
this coming
only a guitar there.
Which I like. It's funny because it's like one of those things that like. Honestly, the first time I watched this, I didn't even question that part. Like, I didn't question that more instrumentation came in.
I didn't either.
I honestly haven't really thought about it until you just said that. Because it's like, that's not the weirdest part of this scene even. And, like, that almost feels like something that's like, well, yeah, we're in Twin Peaks. That happens when you play music. But, yes, just a full band comes in. I don't know. Maybe Maddie brought her keyboard and we just couldn't see it. She's just playing it.
She's just playing it, making good. Is there some sexual tension between? Do we have a love triangle here?
Oh
yeah.
Now it's official.
100%.
I think this is the official.
Yeah,
I mean, I think because before
Ryan,
he was
can
like,
we
oh,
get
she
an
looks like
expert
Laura.
ruling on that? Are we witnessing a love triangle in Twin Peaks right now?
Yes.
Confirmed. Okay.
It's official.
Good to know.
Because yeah, it starts with Donna and James, giving each other eyes, and then halfway through the song, it's a gradient transition because it kind of cuts back to both of them giving him good eyes, and then it's just Maddie. Got it. I almost said Maggie.
There was just this like trans to it where I was like, oh, is he just lost? She still could be Laura's alien doppelganger. So
Who knows?
maybe it's
Yeah.
the same exact eyes. And then the other two make out very loudly, and then she has to interrupt them by having a vision.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
This is like
Rude.
so. Anytime with James and Donna, like the melodrama of the show has worked against it for me in their scenes.
Mm-hmm.
This is their first scene that the melodrama really feels a little more self-aware and purposeful.
And I feel like there's actual conflict there, which makes the melodrama work to some extent because you actually see it going somewhere.
Because
When
she
you
gets
just
up and runs out, like oh, and
runs to a dead end.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Not into another room, a dead a
And he
corner.
immediately chases her.
Yeah.
Maddie's just sitting there awkwardly. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And she's just crying. And then they're like making out loudly, and then the phone rings. Donna's dad's like, "Hey, the phone's for you."
I was thinking, whatever happened to school? Like, it's not summer, and like episode 2 is the last time we saw them in
Yeah.
school. Like,
Yes.
did Maddie transfer? Is she just hanging?
Well, so I think
might be older.
that is one of those. Yeah, Maddie's a little bit older.
okay.
That's not something they ever mention in the show,
Yeah.
but it's like kind of a big deal in Laura Palmer's diary because she talks
Oh.
about Maddie being older.
My hot older
and-
cousin who looks just like me, but brunette.
Yeah, and she thinks she's so awesome. But yeah, they do mention that. Like, there's a point where
Or Bobby's
Major Briggs asks Bobby, he's like, "How was school today?" And Bobby looks at him like,
school.
"Are you that oblivious?" It was great. It was so good. I learned so much.
Oh yeah, it ended 3 minutes ago, and somehow I'm here already. So
Remember how those two had that moment where he was like, I had this vision of you turning out
Yeah.
well? And I was like, what is this? Because Bobby is coming in throwing 100 miles an hour every scene he's in. Eyes
Yeah.
wide. This is what's going on. He doesn't even have Mike as backup anymore. Maybe Mike's the only one going to school.
Yeah.
That's true.
He's doing everyone's
he's
homework.
I go to school from 8 in the morning till 2:30 in the afternoon, and then I'm running around to all your guys' teachers to get your work so you don't fall behind because our friend died. Mike is secretly the only responsible teen in Twin Peaks.
They're using that bereavement pass. They're like, Laura's dad?
But yeah, I actually love Major Briggs' side of that scene. Every time it cuts to Bobby and his face, I'm like, it's
Yep,
a little intense. But I actually, that monologue, that actor who plays, I can't remember his name that plays Garland Briggs, but man, he's just got a good presence, and like I actually love that monologue. It's like very touching, kind of.
He's played that same character in like 4 other things.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? Like, you're
If
the
it
best
works,
at it, obviously. Yeah.
Don Davis.
Don Davis, thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a weird scene, but I actually dig it.
Sorry, we should probably. I think James, he kind of gets out of jail, but other than that, like the friend crew, their only other moment is really her vision that happens after the
Yeah.
makeout.
Yeah.
Which I will say is one of my favorite scenes in these first 2 seasons. Just that shot, I love.
it's disturbing.
Yeah.
It's I like Katie was like, I'm getting creeped out. I'm like, just imagine you're on set filming it and you'll be laughing. But,
Yeah, for sure. Because it is so ridiculous and it's so long. But like every element of that shot works so well. Like because it holds on just that empty, like there's no one in that
comes in
frame,
the
and he
frame.
comes in, he's
Ugh.
already looking directly at the camera, like, I'm like getting chills thinking about it. And then just the sound design when he finally reaches the camera, there's that huge crescendo, and they just cut to Maddie scream crying. But yeah, but like Bob has become a presence.
He's in these
In
two
these
episodes
two
a lot.
episodes,
I
yeah.
think we
Yeah.
see him at least 3 different times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so good. I love that shot. Like I think that's one of the first shots I showed my brother Josh, and he's like, I don't think I can watch this show ever. And he's like, I have no context for this, and I don't know if that makes it scarier, but either way, it's it really is
Yeah.
disturbing.
Yeah.
Like it really is unsettling. But yeah, so other than that, that's kind of the mystery team's whole
It kind of ends on
shtick,
that
right?
phone call with, and it turns out it's Mr. Smith who's
Right.
calling her.
Harold.
And it's kind of implied that he is the one that sent the note to the Double R Diner for Donna to get her to check out the Meal on Wheels, because we didn't mention that, but she does get that note that says,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought that was
Look out
just
for the
from
Meals on
Norma.
Wheels.
I was like, no,
Yeah.
you could have just said.
yeah, because she says on the phone,
Oh,
she's
yeah,
like,
I
I
forgot.
received yours,
It's like-
whatever that means, but
Oh, okay.
I was like, man, is
Oh.
the R&R Diner a post office now? Like, what the hell is
Right?
happening?
yeah. Well, and I think that'll,
Okay.
we'll see. I think it'll clean up a little bit. Let's talk real quick too. I feel like these two episodes do a pretty good job of cleaning up the absolute insane
Yep.
mess of plot lines that is surrounding the Ghostwood Estates. There's like a couple scenes where it's just the Horn brothers being like, yeah, that insurance thing, and she didn't sign it because Josie was the only
Yeah.
benefactor. Like, they're like laying all that out, and I was like, oh yeah, this show does at some point kind of at least like sweep all those plot lines up into a thing and let you see like this is what was going on.
Is that when he's like, we gotta burn something, and we've got 3
Right,
things.
He pulled out a bag of
there's that
marshmallows.
I
scene,
got my
yeah.
cheese pig.
The cheese pig.
And we're not burning the cheese pig. There's some great like dumb lines in these episodes that are delivered just perfectly. Like, I feel like one of the things that you read about in like specifically actors in Twin Peaks is like, yeah, David Lynch just told me to do this weird shit, and like I thought it was going to be so stupid, and then I saw it and I was like, you know what, this is stupid in a good way. Like it's so good. Like, I mean, Jerry Horn's whole character,
Oh my
is
gosh.
so I can't imagine anyone else pulling that character off. Like, anyways,
Well,
it's
and
so good.
Ben is so straightforward sometimes, and then he gets with Jerry, and they just go crazy.
Anytime
like,
that
they start
man is
dancing.
yeah, it's like
Oh my
anytime
gosh.
that man is carrying a cigar, he's
Yeah.
he's two steps in his plan away from tying someone to railroad tracks. Like, he gets to be this
Oh.
just ridiculous
It's
asshole.
like the sunglasses. It just changes
Yeah,
in
it's
one
true.
little accessory.
One of my favorite scenes in these episodes is when Leland comes back and walks in the room with both of them in it and is like singing, and they just look at each other and don't miss a beat. They just stand up and they're just dancing.
Mm-hmm.
He's on his desk, like just stuff
Right,
on his.
yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. Some of my favorite moments of the show have happened in these episodes.
Yeah, they're so good.
They then have that moment where they find out that Leland told the Icelanders about the mill fire, I think.
Right, yeah.
And they're all pissed. I'm like, I'm just getting a little dichotomy here between the dynamics here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the interesting thing to me about the Horns is like they have all these crazy plans, and then they're just also insane.
Yep.
They will just
Mhm.
eat sandwiches like monsters.
Oh,
And
forgot about that.
I don't it's
Describe
Blocked it out.
French desserts in excruciating detail.
right, yeah.
Which I still don't know
Yeah.
what he was talking about. He mentioned like a lot of dessert things, but then he says at the beginning he's like, they take the head. And
Yeah.
they put, I was like,
Did you know what that was, Riley?
No.
Okay, yeah, I
was
still
like,
could
what
not
is
like
this?
pick up on that. They're like, yeah, and then they like glaze the edges. It's like,
dip it in sugar, and I was like, this sounds everything before the first after the first sentence sounds amazing.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so they kind of cleaned that up. Josie is gone. Josie has gone
Went to Seattle to shop.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
/ get away from all the crazy.
right. According to Pete, that's she does this. Ugh.
She does
Yeah.
disappears once in a
And
while.
that guy has showed up, and he's like looking for Josie.
Yeah.
And she just happens to be gone.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh,
Which
the
we had like
guy
a
from
very
Hong Kong?
brief
Yeah.
glimpse of at the beginning of excuse
In
me,
the first.
end of last season
Oh.
when Audrey was leaving.
Mhm.
Was that the
There was
same
that
guy?
Asian guy checking
Yeah.
in.
It's a different guy.
I think it's a different guy,
Is
but
it
they're
supposed to be the same character? They recast.
They were
or is
racist
it-
and they were
I
like,
don't.
white people
I don't
assume
know that
it's
it's the same
guy.
character.
Yeah, that's
I
what
think
I
it's
was
just like
honestly wondering.
there's this other element in Twin Peaks that is
The
But
triad,
just these
for some
guys
reason.
from Hong Kong have showed up.
Yeah.
And he's okay, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm pretty sure the guy across the hall had like a skinnier face. I'm pretty sure. So I texted you guys that because I meant to say it last episode. I was like, oh,
right.
I think it's the guy across the room, the Asian dude who showed up who shot Dale. But then I realized, oh, you guys might have already watched the next episode, and they might have already revealed that, and I just sound really stupid. Like, hey, look what I figured out. And
No, I think that's a really good
Yeah.
because that. I think that's a great.
but then, yeah,
observation.
it didn't show, so I was
Yeah.
like, I felt better about my text after
Which
that.
is funny because that is a very distinct scene in that episode. Like that's a very deliberate moment of Audrey seeing him, but yeah. So yeah, and then Catherine has disappeared or is dead. No one really knows.
I have a feeling she's going to drop back in.
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
She's not
just-
gonna die.
I
was
feel like
too-
she needs a big finale. She's the type of character you don't just let her.
It's just like we got to dip our toes in the Catherine pool. And
No, don't say that.
Oh, sorry. Did you say
Ben
dip the
suck on them
Catherine
or
toes
something?
in our mouth or
Yeah.
what?
The pool
That's
that is
right.
the saliva building up in your mouth.
oh,
Ew.
as the person who initiated the toe thing intentionally, you made it so much worse.
That's what I do.
We reached it. That was amazing.
Yeah, so she gone. She probably has smoke inhalation, so I hope she got some help.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully.
I just hope it goes like full soap opera with her return. Like she doesn't show up until like the last episode of season 2 finale, and it's like this high tense danger moment. Some villain Bob's about to kill Maddie, and all of a sudden a gunshot rings out.
And we just see a gloved hand holding a gun, like we've seen 17
And
other
hands
times, and then
up.
hands up finally. Yes.
But it's like a red leather glove because she wouldn't just wear like plain ones.
Yes.
Be fancy.
It's like the hilt of the gun has like it's like red instead of like pearl. It's just like a red like ruby stone or something.
Yes.
And she's still coughing from the smoke. She's got one of those oxygen squeezing mask things they have in ambulances. She's like, takes a puff.
And she's like, no one kills my brother but me. What?
They pull off Maddie's face, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
been Andrew Packard the whole time, who they thought died to
perfect.
both
We're
sides.
in the Mission Impossible Expanded Universe.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else big that kind of goes on with the Ghostwood group of stories. One thing that's left unclear in these episodes is whether Hank knows that Bobby saw him,
Yeah.
because he told the Horns.
He's
Yeah, Leo
chopping
was
wood.
chopping wood
Wood is
inside.
like the worst.
Jerry's like,
Why would you even share that information? Like,
They have
So
the same. He says it twice. He's like, you know, Leo.
Yeah, I love it, but I'm so glad that Jerry's just like, hold on. I live in this town too, but hold on. Chopping wood inside.
he like yells in his face.
There's construction going on.
Chopping wood inside. I'm working on my P. Martell because
It's getting there.
One of my favorites. But yeah, so it's unclear. Like we know that Bobby saw. I think it's pretty clear that
It
we know
kind
Bobby
of
saw
seems
him,
to
right?
come to Bobby where he kind of deliberately is like, oh yeah.
Yeah, when they're in
Yeah.
the diner and he's like, and Hank looks at him. He's like, chicks, right?
Didn't like the flowers.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know if that's just Hank covering his ass in front of the Horns, or if he legitimately doesn't know that Bobby was there. Like that's kind of left unclear.
I feel like if he knew Bobby was there, he would have killed Bobby. Like I feel like he would have like at some point he would have like said that he was gonna go after him or like made it known.
Yeah, he doesn't
'Cause
seem
he's
like the
kinda
guy
crazy.
to wait and like think it
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. So yeah,
That's the type of guy who covers his tracks.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, so we kind of get that stuff. I'm kind of glad that all that stuff is
Yeah.
kind of in one storyline now. It feels like.
Yeah. It was
Get rid of the burning mills and replace it with really tall aliens, please. Thank you.
Yes.
Before we get to Cooper, I just want to talk about Ed and Nadine and
Oh,
Hank.
Nadine's
Oh my
origin
gosh.
story.
We get the straight origin story. Again, this is probably the third instance now we've already talked about where we kind of get an info dump.
Yeah.
And he tells the story that he was sweethearts in high school with
Norma.
And he just was like, everyone assumed we get married, blah, blah. And then she just leaves him for Hank.
Yeah, they like went off on a weekend together or something.
And then he rebounds with Nadine, and he's like, let's just get married. And they do it. And then he's like, well, on our honeymoon, I thought we'd annul it. And she was all in. And then I shot her eye out, and the guilt kept me with her.
Yeah.
Oh, he Dick Cheney'd her. He went full Dick. He went full Vice. And now she's a pirate.
Vice and Dick are just not combos you want to
She got Dick Viced, and
Nadine is a Dick Vice.
that's like the worst possible. As someone who's been a
what
rebound
she can do
a few
to exercise
times,
equipment, that's actually terrifying.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh gosh.
Oh.
My snoo.
she's the ultimate rebound.
And I
Oh,
that's another scene that I feel like is such a great that scene illustrates, I think, how David Lynch and Mark Frost complement each other so well, because Mark Frost is really good at those character moments, at creating those moments, and also putting just the right amount of humor into it. And David Lynch just gets that and can direct it so well.
Yeah.
Like Albert in that scene, I love that they keep
yeah.
cutting to
I
Albert
love
because
it.
he's just like, these fucking hicks. He's like, I want to get out of this hospital. I'm listening to this man like just ramble on about his wife, and then he like talks about shooting her in the eye, and Albert is immediately all in. Like, so stoked to hear the rest of this story. And like, I will say, getting Albert to be in more of Twin Peaks is my favorite part about these first two episodes of Twin Peaks, because he is so good. He's like the perfect foil for Cooper.
yeah.
But rather than there being a conflict there, Cooper just freaking thinks Albert's the bomb, but also an asshole.
He's like, I
it's
know
just-
you're an asshole, but you also get shit done.
Yeah.
He also brings in, he knows some of Cooper's past. He talks about something that happened to his old partner, and they were trying to connect Leo maybe to another murder in Montana, but we find out, or somewhere else, but he was in a jail in Montana during that time.
Right.
So he kind of brings in that other element of how this could be a wider
Yeah.
set of, like, if Laura's murder and that situation is connected to others. And I just finished watching the Ted Bundy movie, so I'm all about connecting murders across states.
Well, and that's so that is a good thing to clear up, because it does. That's initially in the pilot. They mentioned Teresa Banks. They mentioned this other murder.
Oh, I did not know they
And
did it
that's
by
why
name.
Cooper is looking for the letters under their fingernails.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why it's so important that Leo has an alibi for that murder, because it does kind of remove him a little bit from the running if these murders were all done by the same person, which we presume they are. And yeah, and then we get this the idea that his partner
Went loopy and is in the insane asylum, but has escaped.
and now is gone. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which is another thing in the Dale Cooper autobiography. This character is actually introduced, and you kind of learn a lot of the backstory, which they then talk about in the show. But it's one of those things, I wonder if someone was watching this show in 1990, got that book and read it, and then heard Wyndham Earle's name, I bet they were just like, oh, man. Oh, yeah. Like, so excited.
It's interesting that
It's
those two
gonna
books
go-
came out between seasons,
Yeah.
because I'm already feeling like there is so little we know really about Laura and Cooper
Yeah.
to a degree. So it's interesting that you get that much, and I'm sure we get some of it in this season, but
Yeah.
it's intriguing that they put that much information out there about it.
Well, and it's interesting to know. It's funny when we were hanging out when we went and saw a movie the other night, and we were talking about Mark Frost, and I went to his IMDb, and I was like, man, yeah, I'm shocked there isn't more here. It's because
right.
he's primarily a novelist. Like,
Oh.
he's written a lot of books, and I think you can kind of see that in the way that he approaches writing this. And yeah, so to have that element there, because there's two other books that are associated with season 3 of Twin Peaks, both written by Mark Frost. And so it really is an interesting thing to kind of see the way those collide. But definitely those books, There's not really any information you're not going to get from the show that's really important, but it does give you a much fuller picture of who Dale Cooper is and who Laura Palmer is. And
is there
that's
anything
kinda
about
fun.
Diane in it?
I mean, yes. I mean, towards the end of that book, a lot of those audio entries are addressed to Diane. But I don't think it says anything specifically about her. I don't remember there being
The mystery of my life.
So, but yeah, anyways, kind of fascinating stuff. So they do set up kind of a separate villain for Cooper, which he hasn't had.
Yeah.
It's just been all about the case. And so to have something from his personal life possibly colliding with that is interesting for sure.
Complicated.
Yeah.
Oh, does this mean, is it time we get to talk about the aliens and the visions and the good shit? It went up a notch.
I think it's time. I think it's time for us to get into the quote unquote good shit.
This made me sad.
Oh no!
This
Oh,
whole
I thought you
bit,
were going to be so excited about
because
this.
You've said repeatedly that season 2 goes to a boring, bad place.
I wouldn't. I don't think I've said boring.
No, you haven't. I
Goes
that
to a
word.
bizarre, weirdo place.
The way you have said it made it sound like it's not good, and the fact that I really love what's starting to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I don't want that. I don't want this to become something crappy. I was hoping this would be something great. So it did make me a little sad. But I mean, I did very much enjoy seeing that giant dude from Men in Black 1 reprise his role as an alien.
Yeah. Carol Stryken, I believe is his name. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. He's Danish. But yeah, very distinct looking man.
Yeah.
Cast for, I'm sure, very specific reasons. But yeah, let's talk about the opening of season 2. And I want you to think about this scene in the context that 4 months ago, you watched your new favorite TV character get shot and possibly killed, and you come back to this scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
What the
Yeah.
hell?
I would be irate.
Um,
The guy just not helping him, just repeating shit. The room service guy's like, "What do you do?
Oh
What do you?"
my gosh.
He even just said, "Would you call that?" Oh my hell!
The thumbs up
the
and the wink.
and the thumb up.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
3 times.
And
I
the fact
love
that he
it.
returns it, I'm like, man,
Yeah.
you're a trooper, Coop.
I love too the line when Cooper is signing the receipt, just bleeding out. He's like, "Is the gratuity included?" Yes, sir. Like, what?
He's a gentleman. He will never not tip. He wanted to be
Yeah, no, he's great.
Yeah.
He's
When he's bleeding out.
agreed to live by a certain law, you know. But yeah, Riley, what was your reaction to that scene? I'm probably most interested to hear how you felt about that scene.
I was irritated. So I was just like, he's bleeding on the ground, and this old man, like, I expected him to go in and like drop the milk, have one of those moments, and then he was just like, "Oh, it's gonna get cold if you don't drink it." I'm like, he's been shot. Like, what? Why are you not doing anything?
Yeah.
Then the alien guy shows up, and I was like, is he an alien? Is he the alien? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
You did call
I'm just
aliens
confused.
pretty early on.
Yeah.
You did.
Like after the pilot?
yeah,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm pretty sure aliens are involved. And I was like, all right, sure.
I have the word alien written in all caps, like all throughout these notes. I'm very excited.
Was that just because you really wanted to watch Alien or
Yeah, I'm just craving to watch that movie.
yeah, so the that whole scene is incredible. Like I love that scene. That is 100% Lynch. Like
Yeah.
we're going to talk like we've talked a little bit about like seeing some stuff that's like this is Mark Frost touch. This is just Lynch off his chain. Just like let go. And yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any specific lines that the waiter says to him that are important in any way. Not really.
He says like, "I've heard about you."
I've
which
heard
could
about
go
yeah.
a few ways.
Like
I don't
5
know.
times too.
Yeah.
Right.
A wink involved.
Oh my god.
This is season 2 is the shift to what network was this on? Season 2?
So season
ABC.
2 is still on ABC.
Oh, it's
yeah. So these
okay.
were both
All right.
on ABC.
I was confused then because I was thinking that this was a shift off of
Network.
network television
Yeah.
too, and it was like, what an introduction to a new
right.
a new network setting here.
Yeah, no, this is still ABC. Yeah, that
Which makes it
network
weirder.
shift comes
Yeah.
with the more recent stuff.
It's
but-
Okay.
so strange because this show is because I mean I'm sure like the soap opera crowd was drawn to it
Mhm.
at the time, but unlike other soap operas, specifically around that time too, there's times where it shows a little more restraint, and then there's times where it goes places it like goes the opposite extreme, and this is one of those moments. It's like this is a place that those other shows would have never touched,
Right.
and this, yeah, like I said, it's just completely off his leash, just going crazy, and it that's so weird to me that it even lasted 2 seasons. You
Yeah.
know, like this is. I'm surprised it didn't get canceled after 3 episodes into this second season.
Right. Yeah, it's insane. Like this is like we're getting to the point where it's like it really is crazy. You know, we're living in a time where it's like TV like this is applauded and encouraged in a lot of ways. Like there are people actively looking for a show like this to put on their platform. That did not exist in the 90s.
No.
Like I was reading some stuff in season 1. They were sending fake scripts to the network. And finally, like, the guy who was working with them from the network was like, what the hell am I supposed... You're sending me fake scripts and I'm just finding out about it. Like, they sent them a fake script for the finale that, like, tied things up and then sent them the finished episode of just Coop getting shot
wow.
at the end. Like, and they interview the guy who was, like, working with them at the time. He's like, you know, it was a bunch of people who hadn't really made TV before. Like, Mark Frost had been in the writer's room for Hill Street Blues, but he was running the show here and hiring, like, the two other main writers were his friends that he had met. And David Frost had never done TV. David Lynch had never done TV. And so he's like... It was just ridiculous. Like they weren't there to make a 5-season show. They were there to make a show that they wanted, and it's crazy. It's like, insanely punk rock.
This is a time in history, television history, where my parents knew, like, my parents who are entertainment illiterate, like knew the name of like almost every show that was being played, at least, like, or especially in that time block,
right?
So it's like my mom. Like heard we were doing this, and she's like, she's never watched it because she heard it was a soap opera and was immediately turned off by it and didn't want to watch it. But like she knew what it was,
right?
And I'm like, I just think of people like my mom, like just saying, "I'll see what this is about," and
yeah, it's so crazy.
I don't imagine it going well.
So let's talk about why it wouldn't go well. Because if they're still here after the waiter is gone, that's not the weirdest thing you're about to see in the first 10 minutes of this
It's so weird
episode.
that this and then first occurrence of the alien happened back to back.
Yeah.
It's a lot, and he's just laying there bleeding, and I'm worried about him.
Right. Yeah.
It's long.
And so then we have we'll call him the alien.
I think he might be an
purposes.
angel just for
Okay.
theory's sake.
Interesting. So we have him show up, dramatic light change, which is interesting because I think also prior to this in season 1, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think we haven't seen anything really weird happen in the real world. We've seen the really weird stuff happens when Cooper goes to the Red Room, and he talks to the man from another place, and Laura's and his cousin, whatever.
Yeah.
And then Sarah Palmer sees some visions. But there's not really been anything that encroaches on the real world.
Nothing
in this
overt
big of a
like
way,
that,
right?
nope. Well, this one I thought could be a vision because we've seen visions, but his ring is physically gone. A few
Right.
things that happened made me feel like, hey, I think this guy's really in the room,
Yeah,
and I hope he is.
yeah. So let's talk about. Riley? Do you have written down the 3 things that he tells Cooper?
I do.
Sweet. I just want to make sure we get word perfect. I want to hear
Okay.
those 3 things again.
Okay, so he like tells him, he's like, I have 3 things to tell you, and if they come true, will you believe me? And I wanted to be like, Cooper's not someone that's not gonna believe you.
Right.
Like, whatever. But anyway.
Cooper just paid gratuity to a waiter while he was
Yeah.
dying.
So the first thing is there's a man in a smiling bag. And then the second thing is the owls are not what they seem. And the third thing is without chemicals, he points. And then
Okay.
he takes Cooper's ring and says, when all these things come true and you believe me, I'll give this back to you.
Right.
So
And then he does say one more thing before he leaves.
Oh, yeah,
He
yeah.
says Leo locked in a hungry horse. Is that what he says?
Leo locked inside a hungry horse.
Inside a hungry horse. There's a clue at Leo's house.
Yeah.
Finally, like, it's like he couldn't figure out quite like a good rhyme or way to, and then he's just like, yeah, and also he has a clue at his house. Like,
he doesn't tell him. He doesn't just tell him what the answer is,
right?
Which seems to be what he wants him to do,
right?
And he already knows, but he's like, you got to find the clues.
Yeah. And a couple of those we see in these episodes.
Yeah.
So we see, the smiling bag.
Was there someone in it?
Was it
I didn't
Jacques?
quite understand.
That's so. I feel like that's what's implied is they wheel Jacques
So that's
in
the same
right after
bag,
Cooper. I assume
like
so.
being hung up to dry.
Something, yeah. I assume you have to spray
After they
that
take
out.
the
At
body
some
It was
Yeah.
point.
very moist.
Yeah. And yeah,
Jacques'
the
moistness.
smiling bag, it's just the way the zipper has
Yeah.
fallen, you know, is the way it's hung up. So we see that, presumably Jacques. That's kind of how I read it
Yeah.
in those episodes. And then,
The owl.
what was the second thing? Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The owls are not what they seem, which we should talk about a little bit more in depth with
Yeah.
Major Briggs in a little bit. So that's come true. And then with chemicals, he points. We haven't.
We don't know anything about that
I haven't
yet.
seen that yet. And then we find out that Leo, that's the alibi we were talking about earlier, is that he was in jail in Hungry Horse, Montana? I assume a city
Yes.
like that
Yeah,
exists
it's
in Montana.
Montana.
Okay. So yeah, very interesting. Cryptic, awesome, cool shit. that of course happens to Cooper.
Oh, and they find the clue to is that
Oh, right, yeah.
Andy's whole thing.
Slapstick.
Oh,
Owl.
yeah.
Yes. Good Gandhi. What a oh my gosh. That scene too. So yeah, so when they go to Leo's house, they find a copy of Flesh World in his house. They're like, well, we figured we'd find this. And Cooper is kind of implying that he knows that Leo is probably trying to kill someone that wasn't Shelley because the big heavy TV was moved. So, you know, he's doing his just CSI detective shit. And then basically that scene is interrupted because Andy sees Albert pull up, which I don't know if you guys noticed, Andy never says Albert's last name correctly.
Yeah.
The first time he says, Albert Rosenflower's here. He's like, you guys, you just hear him saying the same thing over and over outside, and then he turns to run towards them, steps on the deck, which then slaps him in the face, and he Donald Duck walks around
For a
for
while.
5
long.
minutes. It's like
boy.
so long that
never
I was like,
falls.
okay, I'm done with this. And then I saw it again, and I was like, I still like it.
Like they like find the stuff, their introductions, like all of it happens, and he's still just stuck
Still
walking.
going. They find Boots and Cocaine, which is the title of RuPaul's autobiography.
It has to be.
There's no other option.
I've seen Party Monster. It's gotta be. That's amazing. But yeah, so they find this is some pretty solid evidence. Even if Leo didn't do it. Oh, we do see
He's got
Leo's
cocaine.
new shoes too, which I was so happy to see because
Those new
do you guys
shoes.
remember from the first season when he's talking to Bobby when they're out in the woods and he
Oh,
hasn't
yeah,
got
he's
his money?
like,
He's
I need to get a new
Leo
pair."
needs a new pair of
yeah.
shoes.
And he actually gets them. Wow.
Got some nice boots.
But
Boots,
yeah,
boots,
so that's so again just tying up very important arcs from the first season.
Uh-huh.
Leo got his boots is important to know.
Payoffs.
Yes. So yeah, and Albert is back in exactly where he wants to be. He loves it in Twin Peaks. But yeah, so then we've already kind of talked about their scene. They go to the hospital. They talk to Jacoby, and Cooper's basically kind of convinced that Jacoby didn't have anything to do with her murder. That he was just
That's when he gives a rundown of the night that seems like another expository dump where he's like, here's exactly where people were when, and seems to give us a layout that narrows down our mysteries for what we're looking for.
yeah. Yeah. Did we have any specifics on that? Do you guys remember? I'm trying to remember specifically what he says, but yeah, he kind of like
He just basically runs down the events of season 1.
yeah.
And it did actually help me realize how much they actually have figured out. Because up until this point, it feels like, yeah, you've learned information, but it doesn't feel like anything like has happened in your investigation, really. But you put it all together, and they really have made some headway.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
And he points out that there was a third man that wasn't Jacques or Leo that was the killer.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's another thing the alien says is that the same
we
scene,
get
or
that
is
in a
that later?
second.
Oh.
When
second
the
time.
alien comes back, we get that that talk. Is there anything else with Cooper before that? Actually,
I have one
yeah.
thought from his talk with Jacoby. Is I think that the person that attacked Jacoby and the person that shot Cooper are the same person. Because when they describe them, they're like, they both had black gloves on. They both had the masks over their faces.
He's also probably the same masked person in the
Yeah.
woods for the drug deal.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that person's getting around town.
Who could or could not be Leland.
Still on that board.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still
the
there?
vigilante justice.
Well, and Jacoby, again, a little bit of he goes back and tells us how he found the necklace and what he was doing at that time, which was super interesting. So
He
we
kind of
really
fills
got
in
a
the
lot of
gaps.
things filled in from season 1 here.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. Because he fills in the gaps for Cooper and Truman because they lost track of them that night. So it is cool to kind of see those things filled in a little bit. Even if we weren't necessarily thinking about them, it's kind of cool to see they are working at that. They are filling this.
It makes it make a little bit more sense because I was like, why would Jacoby be out there? And
right.
And just it seemed too convenient. So it helped to have a little bit of an explanation, make it feel a little bit more solid.
For sure. So yeah, then they talk to Big Ed. We get that wonderful, heartbreaking story. Man, it's a bummer. I will say, one other thing while we're kind of talking about the hospital really quick, I do want to talk about Shelley and Bobby have a scene. Pretty standard Shelley and Bobby scene.
Yep.
There's just kind of an adorable moment at the beginning where they grab each other by the hair and sort of bark like dogs at each other.
Yeah,
But
this
it
was
was
goofy
cute.
fun. Yeah, it was nice.
But it was cute, and it's it felt like a real genuine dumb moment.
Because otherwise he's just so intense.
Right.
Well, here's the weird thing about Bobby in these episodes. We have this scene, and then towards the end of the scene where she's like, I love you, and he has a hard time, and then he kind of
I guess.
it's hard to tell if it was supposed to be a genuine turn for him to be oh yeah, him realizing that he actually does, or if it was him deflecting. I couldn't quite read that super well.
Yeah.
So I just went with the fact that he kind of realized himself, because the other scene with him was with his dad, and it's this touching moment where he's I don't know, being so standoffish to his dad for the whole show so far, and then kind of accepting that and crying and having that moment with him. So I was oh, we're kind of starting to see a redemption arc for this character. And then the next scene after that is him with Shelley again in the car, and he's like, you should let your abusive husband back in your life so you can claim the disability check so we can be rich. I was like, you piece of shit. I was
Plotting. I mean, that's the thing too. That I think that's one of the things that makes Bobby interesting is he isn't that stupid. He's not. I mean, he's dumb.
He just goes off sometimes, I think, and loses it.
But when he has his moment, when he has a second to think about stuff, he plants cocaine on people and plants blood shirts in apartments and keeps people on life support so they can collect insurance money on them.
But it's so from my understanding, what he's explaining is he would return home with her.
Yeah.
I'm
and just be in a coma.
You don't love her because
basically a vegetable, sort of. Yeah.
The amount of work it takes to take care of someone, even in a wheelchair, let alone who's a vegetable, is absurd amounts of work.
Yeah.
And if you don't, they start to stink and die.
Yeah.
And so it's I hate him even more now than I did in season 1. So
I think he's still a teenager too. That's the other thing. We don't. Yeah, you do keep forgetting because he's doing cocaine and not going to school.
Yeah,
2 of the things that I did the opposite of when I was
that's
a teenager.
Normal Gen Z stuff, but
he could fit in on that new HBO show Euphoria. He's ready.
There you
for
go.
it.
Yeah.
I will also say Leo. They imply he was shot in the spine, so he might not be able to walk. And he should go to prison regardless, which Shelley kind of implies. She's so he wouldn't matter, right? He's in trouble, and the doctor seems to almost be oh, she's sad about her husband. And I was you should just tell people he was a piece of shit so that they don't try and help you.
Well, and because she hasn't said anything, Bobby doesn't really tell her that he tried to kill him. You know what I mean? That Leo tried to kill him or anything. So there's still a lot of secrets there in that relationship and stuff. But then I will say the other scene that we get is Norma comes and visits Shelley, which I think is good because we don't really get the idea that Shelley has any family
No.
other than Leo. And so it's good to see that Norma's kind of her mom, and that's nice. And then we see her look in on Nadine and Ed, and Ed's being just the good dude he is, just concerned for
He
his
reminds
wife.
me of me, just too freaking golden-hearted for his own good.
That's what I thought when I watched that scene too. I was like, man, this is like Mitchell.
I kind of like got teary-eyed.
After I'm curious to know if we get more background on why she all of a sudden was like, yeah, I'm going to be with Hank, which it seems like she made a mistake there compared to Ed. Obviously, nice
I would
guys
say
finish
based
last.
on what we've seen Hank do.
And well, and Shelley did something similar, right? She dropped out her junior year to marry Leo, and it's like even if she didn't have a sweetheart that she left, like similar. You said we don't know her family. Yeah, who let her do that shit?
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Yeah, we start to see these cycles of, the same thing happening.
That's what happens in a small town.
Like...
Oh, I feel like that one guy. Oh man, what Albert?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many
I'm
characters
just ready
are
to
you
go.
in this show?
I'm so bad at this. Like when
What
you
is
said
this?
Major Briggs, I was like, oh. Like I knew it was a major, but I call him General. I had no idea what his last name was.
Bob.
I just
He
called him
wears it
Bobby's
on
dad
his
or the
shirt.
General. I'm
He's
sorry, I don't
labeled.
know his rank. Oh.
So let's let's talk real quick. Let's talk about the second appearance of the alien to
Yes,
Cooper.
please.
Then we'll talk about
Log lady?
Ronette and Cooper's stuff. And the log lady. Yeah, we better touch on
Log
that really
lady.
quick.
She's my favorite.
But yeah, so the alien comes back to Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
Basically is like, sorry for waking you up, which again, that's just polite. I don't care if you're supernatural or not. Apologize.
Like if you're gonna come in there with a beam of light,
Yeah.
apologize. Be like,
Yeah.
hey, I got
Just-
something to say. I'm so sorry about this.
Yeah.
Waves in front of his sleeping face.
Yeah.
Well, and twice we see Cooper sleeping like he's sneezing, like with his elbow over his eyes. He's like ready for it.
Yeah. But yeah, so he comes in. Riley, can you give us the notable things that the alien says to Cooper in
Yeah.
his second appearance?
So he says, don't search for all the answers at once. Because you can kind of see Cooper like starting to obsess and try to find everything. So he's like,
Right,
just chill. Look at one at a time. You'll get there. Oh, and then he says, a path is formed by laying one stone at a time.
Right.
And then he also tells him that one person saw the third man. 3 have seen him, yes, but not his body. And then 1 only known to you. Ready now to talk. And then he says, one more thing, you forgot something. Which I think he forgot the freaking note that Audrey left him that's just laying on his floor. Unless there's something else
True.
that he's
We do have to talk
pointing
about
out.
Audrey real quick
Okay.
too. But yeah, so he basically says like there's a person that's seen him and kind of heavily implies it's that I expected from his first exchange to be like, but one has seen him that is known to you, and her name's Ronette. She's at the hospital. It's like, sorry, I was gonna write all this out, but then I had to get here before you woke up because that's just how these things work. Okay, bye. And then like into the darkness.
Is that when he like sends the little light beam?
Yes.
Yeah.
Orb.
What the?
Yeah.
Orbs him.
What the what?
Yeah.
Bothers me.
The beginnings of
Bothers
alien
me because I
probing.
don't know.
And all right, so I just the only capper on that is I instantly thought Bob because Ronette probably saw Bob if he was there. We know no one really has seen him in the flesh, but enough people have seen him in visions, and now we have this picture of him that Leland says he recognizes.
Right.
That's what came to me. But I'm also like, maybe that's too obvious. It's just
Well, we do have
the Cooper, Palmer, and
Maddie.
Maddie.
Yeah, well, I think
Sarah.
one. I think
Cooper,
like
Sarah,
even if you
Maddie.
wanted to say outside of Cooper, there's Sarah, Maddie, and Ronette. Only one of them has seen his body.
yeah.
Presumably Ronette, if she was there that
And
night, right?
he is in Ronette, so I guess we're gonna hop over Ronette. She's awake, and she kind of has a terrifying vision, and then he comes and tries to start talking to her, and he shows her the 2 drawings of the descriptions, and one of them makes her freak the crap out again.
Yeah.
Haunting.
Yeah, that vision is
hard to watch.
Yeah.
It's the most terrifying thing that I think is, like, just on face value, is the most terrifying thing that's been done in this show so far.
Yeah. It's like these 2 episodes get into straight up horror tropes. Like, we've had some surrealist stuff and some kind of borderline horror stuff, but this is just straight up horror. Like those scenes of Laura screaming and Bob, like the way this episode ends with Bob just screaming in that freeze frame, and then Mark Frost, David Lynch pop up on the screen. Like, it is.
And then is it coming back to the piano? Is that that
Yes.
episode?
Yeah.
Her just finishing with the piano piece.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that random dinner. Like, oh boy.
It really is just. It's terrifying. Like, you do get the sense that.
It almost feels out of place, but how real that feels.
Right.
Like, minus his weird scream at the end.
Yeah.
Like, how gritty and raw and real that is compared to the rest of the performances and presentation on this show.
Yeah. And again, it's another thing, like, think about that scene in the context of ABC in 1990. Like, holy shit. They're really, really pushing some stuff. But it's great. It does such a good job at what it's supposed to be, and it does remind you. This show reminds you of these gritty realities every once in a while. That you're like, oh yeah, there's like all these fun characters and stuff, and then there's this really extremely messed up murder, and we're gonna talk about all of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
It helps your investment. I mean,
Yeah.
it reminds you the stakes. While there's all the soap stuff and all things you're trying to figure out, there's also just the loss of life and the fear that, you know, could be around this town because of so much going on. You know, it seems sleepy Twin Peaks, and we start to peel these layers away and see how terrible it is.
Yeah. Well, and I think the breadth, the way that they achieve that across the show, like we talked about the scene where they listen to the recording of Waldo, the bird, where you just hear him saying Laura's name and then saying things that she presumably said. Even that accomplishes kind of that same grounding thing where it's like, oh yeah, there's an extreme act of violence committed in this town. You know?
It's interesting that they can jump tones and make things so effective. I mean, a lot of the Bob scenes, those are, you know, purely effective, and they build up through some of the tension. But right before that, it could have been something completely different. So they have to take us to that place. And I remember it specifically with Waldo just being like, you know, that worked, despite it following just something that was kind of odd and bizarre and just seems out of that same world, but they connect the world enough.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to spend too much time on it, but just really well done from a production standpoint for all of it. From even in the hospital where it just scene cuts to the hallway, slow dolly in, keep cutting to Ronette, back to the dolly, back to Ronette, and then her arms just raising up.
Oh gosh,
and
I forgot about that.
When he shows her the pictures, like, you think she's just seeing them, but then because of her vision, they're really blurry until they get close up, and it slowly reveals like almost like a bleed in transition effect.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting and really well done and effective. And then even the brutal shots in the train car are really well done.
Yeah.
The way light and shadow are working to create negative space.
Yeah.
Some of my it feels weird saying, but some of my favorite production stuff is in that whole sequence.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's disturbing as hell, but really well done.
Yeah, there's a shot where it's like completely black. It's of Laura's face, and you just see those highlights kind of around the edges of her face, and it's haunting because it almost forces you to lean in, but I don't want to get any closer in case something moves like or changes. You know, it's so intense. But yeah, so that's, and I think, again, we're dwelling on this a little bit long, but I do want to mention, like, it's interesting to see David Lynch at this point. This is the 4th episode. These are 3rd and 4th episode, respectively, that he directed. And it is interesting to see, it's cool to be able to watch someone make a piece of media that's very long and reuse some of these tropes and shots, because that shot down the hallway, like we saw that in Twin Peaks High School when they were telling everyone that Laura was dead. And there is like his shots are distinct enough and choices are distinct enough that he has kind of accumulated this catalog of kind of visual language that he can employ in this series, and that gets employed by other people but never quite as effectively, I feel like, as David Lynch does, that really tie it together. And you're like, this is being able to see that pretty early before you had shows directed by one person that were 10 hours long or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it is really interesting. So
we end with Audrey, which we haven't really talked about her. She's at One-Eyed Jack's the whole time.
Yeah.
She has to avoid her dad, who's coming in to creep. She does a great job putting on a mask and stuff, avoiding that. But she seems to be there and just not be in the good graces.
Yeah.
Because Blackie doesn't know who she's related to. And then she comes in, and the store owner who kind of helps the perfume girls get in there. Very kinky dude. Very kinky dude. All right.
Yeah.
All right. He likes the vacuum
vacuum's
going.
the best part.
His
Oh,
toes
gosh.
are done. Some next level shit. But and then it seems weird that she like is working there, but also is trapped there. Like they won't let her
Yeah.
go. And then she finally calls for help. Oh, and by the way, her dad notices him missing, and he calls Cooper, and he's like, "She's been gone for probably 2 days.
Yeah.
Casual,
Doesn't even care.
casual."
Yeah.
And then at the end, she's trying to go, and Blackie's like, "Yeah, not so
Oh no,
fast."
her prayer.
Yes,
where
I
she's-
wanted to talk about
just
this.
transition,
praying
and
to
her
Cooper.
hands are put together. Like, I mean, even how that shot too is pretty fun. Like,
Yeah.
just that close up of her hands, like special agent.
Oh my gosh,
Special
so
agent.
good,
As soon as I
yes.
heard it, I was like, "Oh my!" And it shows him laying there right across
Yeah.
her. So it's not that I thought he could hear her, but I just thought it was so funny.
Yeah,
Oh.
and it's
And she grabs that little stuffed heart with the lace on it.
Well,
It's
she's
like-
pretty much like, "I'm actually bad at this. This is not." I thought I was.
yeah, her whole prayer is
I made a
like it's
mistake.
like touching, hilarious, and cringy. It fits the show really well.
yeah,
it's
it's a great Twin Peaks moment
and
for sure.
her praying to an FBI agent to come help her, and then also like trying to stick up for herself while also asking for help, like a teenager, like a rebellious teenager is like,
Yeah.
look, I mean, this is gonna be normal for me, but I mean, maybe you could like show me the ropes a little bit and get me the hell out of here.
Yeah, it's so good.
Her vulnerability.
But yeah, so she's just trapped in One-Eyed Jack's.
Yeah.
And at the end of that episode, her identity is compromised. Essentially, we
Which I
assume.
don't know if it's a disadvantage or an advantage for her. Like, obviously, they can't really hurt her
Right.
there.
Unless
but
they do it secretly.
Yeah.
That's what I
Right.
was thinking.
Yeah.
Well, and there's kind of this idea that there might be some tension between the Horns and Blackie.
Yeah.
So this might be leverage that she can use to
Yeah.
get whatever she wants. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I can't believe the character named Blackie.
Right. Then the last thing I think we need to mention really quick is Garland Briggs and the Log Lady. Great scene in the diner that starts out with the guy just clarifying in season 2 of Twin Peaks that pie still good. Very nice.
I want to go there. So.
And the Log Lady just plops down. I will say this: not a lot of like diner etiquette exercised by the Log Lady.
She
It's
throws
a-
something earlier, right?
She, like,
Oh
spits-
my gosh,
she
yeah,
spits
she's
on
chewing.
mouse.
Yeah, so she chews spruce gum, which is like made from the tar of trees and is extremely disgusting, and just sticks it on the wall. And Norma calls her out on it. It's so good.
Good job, Norma.
But yeah, so she just plops down right next to Major Briggs. When there's a whole bar, there's literally anywhere.
Her log had something to say.
Yeah,
to
but
her.
it turns out she had the voicemail beep going for who knows how long, waiting to share this message with Mr. Briggs. And then the message is simply deliver the message. And she's like, "Do you know what that means?" She's like, "I know exactly what that means. I didn't expect this exchange to go that way, but yeah, I get it."
Yep, I'm in.
And I think with that, Major Briggs kind of joins the small group of people that I would say are like sensitive to weird shit or something.
I don't know if it's intentional because I mean it's this show, so you never know like what the intent is. But like, for me, it was kind of like, oh, this man's line of work, he's seen some shit,
Right.
like, and so this doesn't faze him because. And then we learn that he has seen some shit.
Yeah.
I love how he says it's top secret. I can't say anything, but what I can say is that we're trying to communicate and see what's going on with messages from other galaxies.
It's like,
and
what
here's
else is
exactly what they say. But everything else is top
I just
secret.
am not allowed to say the word aliens.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so and we do get an answer. I mean, I think you brought it up a couple times on this podcast, like, why the hell is there a major ranking military official in the town of Twin Peaks? It's because it's a good place to listen to radio stations from other galaxies.
Do we have a sound
apparently.
effect for when predictions don't pan out? Can we get like shut up? Shut down. Yeah, no cloning facility, at least yet.
Yet.
I'm not ruling it out.
That might be the top secret part.
I
Who
mean,
knows?
that's true.
But yeah,
I can't tell you about our cloning facility, but I can't tell you about the aliens.
So then he basically shows these radio transmissions that are just a bunch of gibberish, except for the owls are not what they seem, which occurred. When did that occur?
It's like right when Cooper got shot.
When he got shot. Okay. Yeah, the owls are not what they seem, which is what the who we're calling the alien says to Cooper in that moment. And then later it just says Cooper, 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 Cooper in the midst of all this gibberish, which again, weird.
Somebody needs to go trap some owls in that forest area and see what they've got
Dissect
going
them.
on.
Dude,
Tell us what you know.
Get Albert dissecting some owls.
I just love the idea of Albert just trying to twist an owl's head off and it just twisting indefinitely forever. And
like
him
a
just being like,
cork is
oh,
with
the
a pole."
goddamn country! I need back to the city! But yeah, so that, and then that kind of precedes another dream vision thing that Cooper has, where an owl is overlaid on Bob's face, and what else happens in that? We see the return of the stoplight.
Oh, right.
We see the shot of the stairwell with Sarah Palmer coming down from Laura's room again that we saw plenty of times in season 1. Yeah, all that kind of
It's just like random
cut
imagery,
together.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not like
Yeah.
a lot of substantial
yeah,
stuff.
and a lot of stuff that we've seen before.
Well, and I wonder how critical any of this is. I don't know how far out things were planned, like if the season was super sketched out, because I know David Lynch kind of leaves for a while. So I wonder if, while I think he stays until we get some sort of big reveal, it's interesting to me to think how far in advance was this planned, because network dramas were known up until Lost to not plan this crap out very well.
Right.
Whereas something like Game of Thrones, like when Dany goes into the House of the Undying and she sees that vision, most of that comes to fruition. We learn a lot from it, and it's just vague enough. And in this, I think these things are going to pay off pretty soon, but I wonder how much they project out and tell us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I'm excited. There's a lot of stuff cleaned up. A lot of the stuff that I feel like makes moments in the first season maybe a little tedious, kind of cleaned up and pared down a little bit to a more manageable size, and then just the introduction of more weird shit, which is great.
We definitely hit some new weird.
Yeah,
And we got some things organized, and I'm like, okay, I mean, if you're going to add the complexities of the alienness or whatever, then I'm happy you sorted out some of the humanity from season 1.
Right.
Because we've got 22 episodes in season 2. Things seem like they're going to get convoluted. There are, in a 22 episode season, there are always wasted minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be in a pretty good place right now.
Yeah, yeah, it's good stuff. Great. Well, let's really quickly do speed round of recommendations. Anyone watch anything this week that they need to recommend? Something to keep people busy.
Glow. I started watching Glow on Netflix.
Yeah.
Like
I've
the
watched,
first season?
Yeah, first season so far. I think I'm on episode 3 right now. 3, maybe 4.
Cool.
I don't remember. But yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
I've seen the first season. I haven't touched the second season yet.
it's way better. It's so good.
Okay. I
You
need
need to
get
check
on
it out.
that.
It's very good. Yeah, it glows great. I'll get mine out of the way real quick. I watched Fleabag. I'm just on my Amazon shit right now. I watched both seasons of Fleabag. Season 2 of Fleabag has been hyped out the ass for the last couple months, and for good reason. It is incredible. You should watch it. That's all.
Never even heard of
It's
it.
really fun.
I've been watching Schitt's Creek. I started that a couple days ago.
So
It's
good.
a good one.
I
like
think
it a lot.
I think my entire family is now watching Schitt's Creek, and nothing can make me happier. I love it. It's so good.
I don't know if I can recommend it yet. I've only watched 2 episodes. Very old. I started Evangelion.
Oh, I want to start that.
Which is another anime, which is the second time I brought up an anime on this show. I don't watch a lot of anime.
Tyler McKinley, resident weeb.
Yeah, I really don't, but this sure makes me sound like I do. So, yeah. I still haven't even finished Dororo yet, but,
Oh, right. Yeah.
yeah, both, I will say about Evangelion, I do like the, I don't know if you call it cinematography and animation.
Sure.
But,
Yeah.
surprised, because usually that's not the strong suit of anime. Usually they try and, for cheaper animation, try and hold
For
things as long as
workflow
possible.
purposes, yeah.
But yeah, some really good Hollywood production flow to their editing and cinematography. Less detail on the backgrounds than most anime, which I think gives them the leeway to do that. But
Right.
that's what stands out to me so far. With
Cool. Yeah.
I've watched 3 out of the 5 episodes of Chernobyl, the HBO miniseries on the Chernobyl nuclear explosion.
Oh, no spoilers. I don't want to hear what happens.
There's not a nuclear explosion. No, but it's really good. It's notorious right now because it has a really high IMDb rating, which I think is so stupid because that's a user thing.
Stupid.
And I'm like, I don't know. I see the same issues in this that someone might find in another prestige show, but it is really well done. It is super interesting. You got to get past episode 1 because that's when you kind of settle in with the right people and you find a lot of things. But I also just find the incident overall really interesting. And I mean, you know, it's got a little bit of disturbing stuff, and it makes you think a little less of bureaucracy and the Russians. But what doesn't?
That sounds like the most American thing that I can think of.
They all have British accents, which is odd.
Of course.
They said they experimented with using Russian accents, but in English. And I don't know. It's actually a similar tone to The Americans, where half the show is just in Russian. But I understand why they didn't do that. But just amazingly crafted TV. It does grip you. I definitely was up till 2. I watched all 3 in one sitting. So
nice.
High recommendation if you want to watch really good. And if you're interested in that sort of thing. There's too much TV on for me to say you have to watch it, but it's damn well done.
Cool. All right. Cool. Well, if there's anything
like
we
those
missed.
pies, right?
What was that?
Like those pies,
like
right?
those pies.
Damn good.
So, yeah, if there's anything we missed, let us know at our email, rewatchersonthethe.pod@gmail.com, or at our Twitter, @rewatcherspod. You can let us know, and we'll definitely read it, probably.
Yeah.
We might get to it with
We have
thousands.
all notifications on right now.
I had to turn them off because there's too many.
But yeah, so we will see you next week. We're watching the next 3 episodes, so it'll be another kind of bigger week as far as volume of content. But we will be trucking along with the next 3 episodes of Twin Peaks. So we'll see you next week. From the Lodge, this is Tyler Harris.
Riley Harris.
Tyler McKinley.
Mitchell Marshall?
Justin Hammer.
And we'll see you later.